So let me just catch everybody up with what I was prattling off into the silence a minute ago. Something wonderful has happened, something serendipitous. Serendipitous is about when something fortunate happens that seems like it happened by accident. Um, I've been on a 20-day arc called Finding Voice, which is this practice that I've been inviting people into to go live for 20 days on camera and just speak your mind. And the reason I'm doing it is because every single one of us, I've been trying to reach writers on Substack in the belief that Substack is one of the better platforms out there. It's still got something good about it and it still has hope. And that many folks are here for the same reason as me, is we are finding something inside of our voice that wants to speak into this moment now, that has some medicine, some gift, some contribution to make to the story, the conversation, to our moment in time. And yet the wrong kinds of people are taking all the air out of the room and are we're not speaking in our own voice. We don't have the courage to be truly seen in that which we want to say, and we don't have the love affair and this intimacy and romance that we could and should have with our own forms of genius. And so that's what the Finding Voice practice is all about. And I posted a video yesterday which explains all of that. It's written up in the text, quite fantastic. But I've also felt inside of me a necessary closure to that arc. It's not that I don't believe in that project. I enormously believe in that project, but there is a different voice coming through me that wants to say something else and speak to a different person, a different kind of soul right now. And that will change in time, and then I'll respond and I'll be speaking to another kind of soul. So one of the things that I'm advocating in this Finding Voice exercise is this power of directionality, of vector, of intentionality. So if I can connect with my deep why am I doing this? Why am I trying to be able to do this thing for which this exercise or this practice or this 20-day challenge is designed to do? What's it designed to do? Everybody wants to be able to access a state of flow at will. Because why? Because we have these little tiny windows of exchange. Whether you're a parent with a child, or whether you're lovers trying to solve a relationship or just deepen your connection, whether you're speaking to someone online, a boss, a leader, a client, a colleague, somebody that you're doing business with, we are all communicators. We all have these tiny windows in which to transmit something of real profound meaning and relevance, right? And the way to do that is to be most authentically ourselves, that are comfortable with whatever shows up in the field, whatever changes, however rapidly it changes. And the way I've described that is we want to be able to access flow at will. So that's what I was wanting to do. And in order for that flow to happen, I have to know my why. I have to be in deep connection with my own internal why. Why am I doing this, right? And it might just be because I want to access flow at will. That's a good why. Who am I speaking to? Which soul, which heart am I trying to be resonant with? Because it's that resonance that social media doesn't cater for, that the algorithm cannot do, that all the content creators and all their synthetic bullshit are not catering to. And the human soul is starved for meaning. And if we say our piece into the void, the souls that we will resonate with and connect with, half of that is determined by an algorithm, but the other half is determined by our ability to connect with our profound why and to connect with them. That's what that exercise is for. And so the directionality that I've been speaking to, and I'll check the notes in a second. Claudia just joined. Hello, Claudia. A gentle clown witch. I'm interested to hear what that means. The person that I've been speaking to is the Substack writer, in the belief that Substack writers are also here to try and find their voice and try and say something into the moment. Now, that arc is coming to a close, and there's a different voice that wants to speak through me. And the different voice and the person that I'm trying to reach now is the urban mystic. A mystic for me is somebody who has a sense of calling and a sense of desire and longing which cannot be serviced by anything in the world. It's a searching beyond the familiar, beyond the limits of what everybody else can speak about or what everybody else thinks is important. And I have an enormous soft spot for such people. Many of them will be neurodivergent. Many of them will have forms of genius, but they're not just neurodivergents. They're not just unrequited geniuses. There is another kind of unrequitedness. There is a love affair that they have with the great secret or the mystery. There's something drawing them on which they cannot find in the world. We can search for that in religion. We can search for that in yoga, in breathwork, in meditation. Hey, Joe, nice to have you here. We can search for that in so many ways. But we find that all of the canned answers that exist, all of the people spruiking philosophy and spirituality online, they're of a certain kind of social category that doesn't really make room for the true mystic. You're not allowed to go outside the boundaries. You're not allowed to talk about your personal experiences with the great secret or with, let's call it God or the universe or the cosmos, and however it's speaking to you. And if any of you have read Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, right in the beginning, in the first couple of pages, there is this retelling of somebody who's trying to reach people in service of their souls, trying to be useful and meaningful to them in their own journeys, trying to reintroduce them to the nature of what it means to be a person in this world and what's still possible, what horizon of invitation and beckoning is waiting for all of us, and that humanity itself is a kind of stepping stone, not to leave the world behind and jettison off into some divine space or location or state, but to help participate in making this world and this life and the human project more beautiful, more meaningful, right? But to do so by stepping deeper into that journey that cannot be fulfilled in the here and the now and the small babble amongst normal people. But I say urban mystic because it's not as if you have this vocation in you, you can either become a mystic and you can take yourself off to the mountain and join an ashram or join a monastery and you can deepen that journey, right? But I don't want to live a monastic life. I'm called to ground my life here in the suburbs, right? I'm in love with my daughter. I'm in love with my wife. I'm in love with my family insofar as like I have a sense of meaning and duty and a purpose that I can't, there's no ways I would be able to let go of that. And that means here, in order to get my daughter to school and in order to just carry on with my life, I have to live this double life. I have to make room for this profoundly sacred journey that no container can hold for me. And I can find no peers who can discuss this in profoundly honest, radically honest and vulnerable terms. Everybody's always trying to quote what some sage said in a book, right? And where we're going, there is no path in some sense, you know. And in that, there is a sameness in all of that. So a mystic will always recognize a mystic, but how do we practice this in an urban context? And how do I integrate this into a life where I can't go off for 3 weeks at a time, or for months, or for years at a time? I have to do this in these little skillful packets of hours in a day where I can carve out space while still holding space for my family. Farid says, well expressed, Rocco. So I'm called, ladies and gentlemen, to speak to the urban mystic. And I'm called now to speak to that. And maybe that arc will come to a natural end, you know. But for now, this is what I want. This is what I want to invest my energy and my attention into. And something wonderful has happened because right on cue, I've been wondering, how am I going to do this? Do I have to get Zoom working so that I can share my screen? Because there's things that I want to show people. I need to show images and maps and models and pictures and tarot, for example. Tarot is a very, very powerful medium that brings together our mythic language and our language of logos and reason together in one thing that can rejoin and remarry those separated parts of ourselves so that we can continue our own journeys and deepen our fluency and our lexicon of the language of soul, which is mythos and imagination, but also the language of our high mind. And I don't mean the chattering monkey mind. I mean the hermetic high mind, that vehicle of intellect that we search for when we look for understanding, so that we can get that understanding, that wisdom coming together in a form of knowing. And now, right on cue, instead of having to host this in another software and stream it, and which I can do, Substack has just released on their desktop platform the ability for me to share a screen. And I'm going to demonstrate it. I've never tested it before, ladies and gentlemen, so you shall be my hopefully willing guinea pigs. Let's see how it goes. Screen sharing is here, they say. And I want to share this screen. Share. Please let me know if you can see that. Because what I want to do is I want to go to my sister Substack called Hermetica Reiterated, and I want to focus on this little section called the Loom, which is where I've done this tarot work before. You can see it? Excellent. So that what, ladies and gentlemen? So that I can click on these posts and scoot down and start showing you these wonderful images that are part of these meditations that we can reflect on and look at to deepen our exploration of this urban mystic project as we go. Now, I don't need to start one of the cards now, and I don't need to go too deeply into this, but this is now the possibility that's opened up wonderfully. It means now we can just sit here together and we can gather together for these little packets of time. If I start calling in people who have this kind of vocation, who would like to learn more about archetypes, sacred geometry, Kabbalah, alchemy, Gnosticism, astrology, but not just for their own sake, how they actually are all different maps of meaning and different allegorical takes on the same fundamental project. These maps of meaning about how we deepen our self-knowledge, how we belong in the world. They can help remind us who we are. And if we can increase our fluency in that language, it means all of the other things that we're doing in our lives to apprentice ourselves to our own crafts and calling, to have our psychonautic experiences, to have our own spiritual experiences, to do our dream interpretations, whatever it might be. The world is always speaking to us, but it's always speaking to us in the capacity that our educations and the world around us has not prepared us for, has not educated us in, has not initiated us into. And this medium that I want to speak about for this next arc of lives is I'd like to invite people in who care about such things and who find meaning in such things. And this is the register I want to speak into. The register I want to speak in is the register of the urban mystic. This is the person who has these kinds of callings and these curiosities, that is not satisfied with just reading books or just listening to some Muppet, riffing on a podcast. We want to develop our own relationship with these forms of meaning, our own relationship with these maps, our own relationship with these archetypal forms, characters, processes, and tropes. And through that, when we start watching movies or reading books, suddenly all of this meaning and profound depth is going to be unlocked that we can access. And if everyone's excited about that, then this is the place to catch me. Every other day I'll be doing something like this, and I'll try to keep it shorter. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So for those of you who may watch this later that have been with me on that previous journey and popped in and supported the conversation and been part of it while we were talking about finding voice, the finding voice practice is there. I still am trying to galvanize Substack writers. I think you are the voice. You are the voice that the moment needs right now. But there's a difference between just writing and just speaking versus connecting profoundly with your authenticity, giving yourself a profoundly radical sense of self-permission that isn't just making more noise. It's connected to a why, a sense of calling inside of you that is heart aligned and meaningful to you. in which you have much more courage and conviction to be seen, to use your actual voice, to say what you actually think, and then have this very profound and intimate, deep form of relationship and intimacy, almost like a romance with your own forms of genius. And all of the side project of that, which was and is called A Better Way Now, and it's on a separate Substack. And I want to get the speakers in, and I want to host them on podcast interviews and let them do keynotes and host talk series and talk about thought experiments and share each other's work and pump each other's tires and hold space for each other, a welcoming space, a receptive space for these kinds of conversations. So that project remains. I'm just not going to continually bang the drum about it, and I'm not going to be speaking directly to that persona for a bit. I'm going to be speaking to the urban mystic. So that's it, folks. And if there's any questions or comments or thank yous or go fuck yourselves, whatever you want to tell me, I shall listen with an open heart. Farid says, thank you for this. Happy to see you. There is resonance here, of course. Excellent. Excellent. Excellent to know. Claudia, what is a gentle clown witch, my friend? And Fractal Universe, in time, we're going to find some way of distilling and showcasing some of your work in a way that people can digest it and reach it, even if a recorded interview or a TED Talk kind of thing is not your jam. We'll find a way. Folks, there's no questions. Oh, there we go. Excellent. Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much for your time. Have a kick-ass day, and I'll be online probably tomorrow or over the weekend. Take care. I put another paper out today. Well, I'll go have a look. See ya.